Welcome back to Maximum News. I'm your host, Max Danger Darrett. Come on, Sib.
You said you were going to ask.
Welcome back to Maximum News. I'm your host, Max Danger Darrett. Come on, Sib.
You said you were going to ask me, so I'm waiting for him to ask me because I think he's got some interesting way of asking me.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. I'm like, this is quite the thing he's building up to here. He's
sorry, I thought you were going to take the cue. Oh, I'm
literally,
sorry.
you said literally, I'm going to ask you, and I'm like, all right, I'm waiting for the ask.
Oh, that was...
Nothing goes over my head. I'm too fast. My reflexes are too fast. I would catch it.
I'm gonna die standing next to the biggest dumbasses in the galaxy. Oh, that was so good. Thank you. That was the greatest thing ever.
Definitely do an outtake with that.
Yeah. So I'm Max, and
this is Sib. How are you? Sibsidian from the Triple S League.
Yes, we're all good. We're in the best possible mood. Now, I gotta talk about stuff that's gonna... Well, actually, no. We are going to talk about Activision Blizzard right off the bat, but we actually got a little bit of good news. So it's not, whenever you think about that company, especially in the last 2 weeks, everybody just sinks into a little bit of a depression, but we actually got some good stuff that happened in this past week. So it seems like the public backlash is working, and we got some tangible results this past week. First of all, Blizzard President J. Allen Brack is no longer the president of Blizzard. He's announced his decision to step down, and the reason he cited for stepping down is, quote, to pursue new opportunities. And I hope that one of the opportunities he is pursuing is a course in how to offer a sincere and constructive apology. Seriously, good effing riddance to this guy. Ever since, he offered that half-assed apology back at BlizzCon in 2019 regarding, Blitzchung getting ousted from the Hearthstone tournament, simply for, expressing his love of democracy, because we all know how bad that is. I wanted this guy to get a firm kick in the nether regions, let's say, as I can't.
I mean, he's been a bad apple for so long, as far as doing his job. He has no understanding of what people actually want. Everybody was screaming for vanilla for so long, and he just shows up and he goes, yeah, you think you do, but you don't. And then the most insulting thing about that is he doesn't even understand the concept, the proper concept of what has been hurting his game for so long. And that is a lack of community. It's been hurting a lot of games for a very long time. When Blizzard first introduced WoW, and when the first early versions of these MMOs came about, it was about community. You form a community, you go and do things as a community, and you work through it, and you progress, and you learn to work through things. You get upset, you get frustrated, but then you come back, and then that elation of once you have it and it's done, when you beat it, when you pull a bunch of motley crew type people together and you actually produce something great, that is something that's more than just entertaining. That is legendary. You think of all the motley crews that were thrown together at the last minute to go stop some big force or something like that. And really, that is some of the most heartfelt stories ever.
Yeah.
Right? It in some cases surpasses individual glory. And that is where things are so cool. And that as a species is what we used to do. We used to, go out in a pack, hunt down some very dangerous animal, and then we win and we feed the village for a week, and everybody's happy about that. Everybody's excited. And it's amazing. That's what humanity was for how untold tens of thousands of years, right? Like hundreds of thousands, possibly, more, depending on how you want to structure, human society as far as records and whatnot goes.
Yeah.
It's a long time that this has been ingrained into our DNA. And that was something that really brought people together, really made people excited. It was one of the premier things that happened in especially Wrath. And then they introduced the LFG system, where you don't need a guild anymore. You just click a few buttons, you apply to a few groups, you get accepted. They make a bad poll, you ditch, you call everybody a loser, and then you go back to your miserable little corner and you sit on your little stump and go, if only they were better. And it's that was the thing that has, in my opinion, has done the most damage to World of Warcraft and every other multiplayer game out there that employs the same system, and that doesn't encourage you to find people and group up. I really hope to God there's a bunch of MMOs, especially New World, do not introduce an LFG system. Make people group up into communities and then encourage those communities to have find success. And the more success they find, the better the rewards for them as a group. And so you're always encouraged to stay with the same people.
Right.
And he had no ability to understand that this was a core issue. Absolutely none. Doesn't even think about it.
It seems so obvious because just to promote the longevity of your game, people will go and create their own guilds, their own tribes within a game like World of Warcraft. No problem. You don't have to worry about getting a looking for group system. And once those guilds are created, especially in World of Warcraft, people will keep coming back over and over again as long as you keep supplying the content and giving them better loot to look after. And just being able to go on those quests over and over again with the same people, same reliable people, which you used to be able to do to a great degree in World of Warcraft, that is what made it popular for so long. But with the introduction of that system, with the introduction of pay to progress systems, as you can clearly see, especially when I watched that video by, what's his name, Matt Season, about a week ago, it's
heart-wrenching.
Yeah, the worlds are barren. And like, I thought through the years about going back to World of Warcraft again, because I haven't played it in about 10 years. And I just had the fondest memories playing that game with my friends and just developing these lifelong friendships with people. But now to know that that's what the state of the game is right now.
At the beginning of BFA for Battle of Azeroth, which was the previous expansion, not the current expansion that was out, I was tempted with this glimmer of seeing that there was something good. It was coming back, and it was going to be so much better. And you know, BFA hadn't even launched yet. We saw the cinematic for the burning of the tree, and everybody's like, oh wow, this is going to be, I mean, they started with that. They're going to be some really, like, there's going to be hell to pay, and there's going to be some really epic storyline here written by some people who are really good and know a lot about story writing. No, that's not what happened there. That is not what happened at all. This is some of the worst story writing I have ever seen. And this includes the vast majority of the very cringy roleplay that I saw happen in Goldshire. So, yeah, this is the worst. I can't emphasize this enough. This is the worst, dumbest, most pathetic excuse for a narrative I have ever seen. You know, Pyromancer got really upset and he went on a tear. And he's like, you know, a certain writer at Blizzard couldn't write a good story if he outlined it for him. Pyromancer's pretty good with writing. And I have to agree. It's not only is it pathetic, pointless, a blatant ripoff of Avengers. Like, here, I'm gonna throw this very quick scenario at you, Max.
Okay.
There's a big guy. He's like bluish purpley in color, right? And he's after the 5 things of power that if he gets them, then he will be able to remake the universe. What storyline am I talking about here?
It sounds like Thanos.
Yeah, sounds exactly like Thanos, right? Yeah, that's the new story in Blizzard's World of Warcraft. That's the new story. That's it. Yeah. Really good, right?
That's really what they did. Like, I understand.
Hold on, wait. There's more. So more. So you've got this. There's this evil chick, right? That she works for this big blue guy. Okay. Now she doesn't have normal skin tone color. You know, she's not part of the regular skin tone color. She's something like different, completely different. So you think like oranges and greens and blues and that kind of thing, right? So she's got this, you know, and she is a slave to this guy, right? But she doesn't know how bad he is. She thinks he's going to be the savior of the universe. But then, you know, she gets, you know, in the past, she was this really superhero. And then she kind of got, like, you know, knocked down a peg. And then she got back up again. And then she got knocked down a peg again. Then she got up again. And you know, things are going really great. Now she's decided that, you know, she's going to fight against this guy because, you know, screw him and probably is going to die at some point, but then mysteriously be resurrected later on. Does that one sound familiar? Starts with a G.
Gamora?
Oh, Gamora. Oh, no, actually, I'm talking about the Sylvanas. Yeah, no, not Gamora. Same storyline, different character. Yeah, again, these guys are copying old Marvel stories because apparently they wrote this like 5 or 6 years ago, and they've been like, "Hey guys, this is going to be the greatest story ever." And it's so sexist too. It's so sexist because every major female character, including the goddess Elune, turns out that they're just really incapable of understanding situations and basic common knowledge things. But that's okay because they're women. That's the vitriolic sexist garbage that's coming out of these guys' mouth. mouths. I don't know how many of them are responsible for these stories, but it's disgusting because these are the same people who get up on a pillar and say, hey guys, you know what? That whole democracy thing in Hong Kong, no, yeah, can't talk about that. No, it's not okay, man. That's not okay. Now, please support us as we move into, this special month with these special colors on all of our stuff, except for the ones in, Saudi Arabia and the Middle East and a couple other countries. Yeah, same people, same hypocrisy at its absolute finest.
Yeah, you're all about minorities' rights, but when it comes to the treatment of anybody that is in Chinese within China,
I mean, the whole situation's garbage because this Jason Schreier guy, who I've talked about how much I have an absolute unending respect pool for him that's about the size of an ant's rear side. He sits on a lot of this info for years so that it can build up so that he can then report on it as a story.
Yeah.
Right.
Build up
so
his,
he could have blown the whistle ages ago, talked about a whole bunch of this stuff, but no, he sat on it so that it would become a bigger story. That's like, oh, wow, look at that abuse that's going on over there. That's really terrible. But you know what? If we wait like a few years and this gets really bad, we could have a full-blown like murder over there. And we could just then we could call the cops and there'll be this big thing. And then we'll get to interview with the big press people that come and put a TV camera in front of us and ask us how we knew it was the bad guy. And it's like, well, for the last 10 years, we've been watching the situation get worse and worse and worse and worse. And every day this person came to us and said, please help me. I'm getting beaten every day here. And I just sat back and said, you know what? No, we're just going to sit on this until it gets really bad. That's essentially what he's done.
Yeah.
So Jason Schreier, you're a hypocrite too.
Yeah, it's all about how big can we make the story so that when we actually do report on it, we're the heroes of journalism. We care about people. It's not about, our bottom line and bolstering our egos. Yeah, guys, Jason Schreier, even though he has a lot of inside access and breaks a lot of these scoops, he is not your friend. Okay, just keep that in mind. Despite all of that, all this, bad news, which we've talked about today and on the last couple of episodes, this is a positive step in the right direction. Now, granted, he'll probably end up getting a job, Jalen Brack, at another company, which sucks, but at least the leadership which permitted Blizzard's culture of harassment is starting to be dismantled. There's still a lot more work that needs to be done. Now, on the same day that Brack stepped down, I think this was on Tuesday, a coalition of Activision Blizzard employees sent a joint letter to their CEO, Bobby $200 million Kotick, criticizing his decision to hire lawyers from a firm called WilmerHale. Saib, I want to tell everybody what this law firm is famous for.
Well, aside from being very well connected to the CIA, interesting story there,
right,
which we won't get into, turns out that their best thing that they do is smash apart unions.
Yeah.
Yeah, this didn't go unnoticed by pretty much everybody. It's like, they called in a third-party law firm that is going to come and investigate, make sure everything's hunky-dory. Wait a second. Didn't a bunch of the senior Blizzard staff used to work at this law firm? And isn't this law firm, known for breaking up unions and preventing unions from forming? In fact, aren't they the primary law firm that's involved in the Amazon versus their employees situation going on here? And wait a second, don't they have several connections to the CIA? Yeah, that one. That's the one. Yep, same law firm.
Yeah, it's just, we pay a lot of our employees minimum wage, not enough for them to be able to get by.
Especially not in California.
Yeah, especially not in California. We treat primarily the female staff, we harass them sexually, and to a certain extent the males there. And when this comes out, our first aim is to not take these allegations seriously and to do remanagement from the top down. No, it's to make sure, above anything else, that this private company is able to prevent these employees from starting up a union. Go F yourself.
Yeah.
Seriously. Anyways, so that's what I mean, guys, when it's like this is going to be ongoing for a long time. Just because we got this one small victory with the whole J. Allen Brack thing, there's still a whole lot more work to be done. Do not stop talking about this. Do not stop sharing information about this. Hound them until stuff is properly done. Finally, we will get off of this in a second, guys. Just bear with us. Today, it seems like the advertisers might be pulling out of the Overwatch League. Why did I say that?
They are in droves already.
Okay, well, based on this article that I read, there's 7 main sponsors for the Overwatch League, and 2 of them are quote unquote reevaluating their limited marketing relationship with the Overwatch League. One of them is Coca-Cola, and the other is State Farm.
You want to know what's really funny about the Coca-Cola one?
What?
A certain Bobby Kotick is on the board at Coca-Cola.
Okay, so that's why they're saying they're reevaluating, because they're not actually going to stop. They're just going to make it seem like stuff has changed over the next month or so.
They might pull their support completely, and they may also have a new opening on their board of directors, because not everybody is. And so, if I were a certain piece of garbage who owns and operates one of the biggest companies in video gaming, I'd be sweating pretty badly right now. I mean, you only survived the last vote of confidence in that company by 4%, and now everything is kind of closing in around you, and Coca-Cola really not happy with your performance and a bunch of other stuff going on. So yeah, very interesting.
He's going to parachute. He's going to parachute into that other job, and the shape of his parachute is going to be the shape of one of those old style Coca-Cola bottle caps. Anyways, yeah, that does seem like a pretty likely situation. Just wait until they do their next vote. I'd be surprised if it weren't below 30%. But yeah, that's pretty much all the updates that we got for this right now. We'll see if they actually pull their ad revenue beyond Coca-Cola and State Farm, but for the future events, whether the other 5 sponsors will do so. I don't think I'm missing anything, Saib. Is there anything else you want to bring up in regards to A and B before we move on?
There's other stuff that's happening, and there's a lot of stuff, a lot of info coming out very quickly. They are doing a lot of hiring of new positions, so they aren't replacing, these positions that have been posted aren't positions that are replacing certain people. These are new positions going up. So one thing that's been noted for sure is that whatever choices that these 2 new people who are in charge are making, and the fact that one of the guys that have returned to Blizzard recently was one of the founders. I believe his name is Alan, I want to say, probably getting that wrong, but he's been put in charge of new IP and coming up with new stories and new stuff like that. And there's a lot of what appears to be new movement going on. If this is the case, then I think we're in for, there is room for Blizzard to remake themselves, right?
Okay.
And so we're kind of hoping that happens, because that would be the best thing in the scenario, is that they're reforged into something better and far more improved.
I see what you did there.
Yeah, it's, again, do I think it's going to work? I don't know. It depends on a lot of things. Right now, I think the best thing everybody can do is pull their support and stop paying for stuff from Blizzard. Yeah. If as many people did that as possible, then, and on all of their stuff, and unfortunately, I don't think we're going to see that from the COD crowd, but if we can pull as much support from them from as many places as possible, this will create real pressure top down to reform or lose their investments. And the people who have investments will look at the leadership and say, okay, you know what? You're all gone, including you, Mr. Bobby. So if that happens, and then they say, all right, what made us great to begin with? And let's look back at the people that were instrumental in that, and let's have a conversation with some of them, because there's a lot of early developers who left early on from Blizzard who are now like key people in other scenarios and other positions and that kind of stuff, and they are working on some good stuff, and or like get some of these like I think one of the smartest things they could do, one of the absolute smartest things they could do, is hire Pyromancer, Preach, Asmongold, Annie Fuchsia, Bellular, Aklon, a couple others.
They're never going to hire Asmongold.
As well, no, not as lead devs or anything, but as consultants.
Sure.
And you run stuff through them. And I've been wanting this to happen for literally more than a decade now, is they need to have like people who are in the community who like play a particular role or play a particular class. Those people need to be brought in as like, not necessarily full-time employees, but they need to be brought in as like the lead voice of that class, right? Of that spec of that class. And then they need to voice their concerns and have a debate with the developers about improving their class, because these are the people who understand both the game and the viewers, especially somebody like Adam.
Mm-hmm.
He knows exactly what the viewers want, and he is very, very good at giving it to them. And people like Preach, they've been in this industry, they've been doing this for years. And Preach especially, he knows exactly what the community wants. And again, you would think that these people would listen, but they don't listen. So
the only way they are going to listen is like what you said before, is if their bottom line is affected. And now is the best time for us to make strides in that regard, just to get people to stop paying money. A lot of stuff is still up in the air. The best case scenario for the company would be, like, as you said, if they were to go in a direction where they not only just get rid of their management, but structure in a way where they can go back to focusing on building community, building great games, and all that good stuff. Now, let's move on to this article that you mentioned to me earlier today, Saib, about game developers and how their skills are being used in this emerging market. Can you sort of elaborate on what you read today?
Yeah, so it's an interesting article, and this has been something that I've noticed and I've been hearing a lot from a lot of devs for the last year now, is that a lot of them are getting good job offers at other places doing other things, but kind of working in that that interactability technology sector, essentially, right?
Yeah,
it's the ability to take what they're doing in video games and take it to a different company to build other systems. We know from a couple of studies and a couple of companies that if you gamify your work, your production skyrockets. Like if you literally gamify your work, moving things around, doing data entry, if you can make it literally fun, people will work way harder, way better, and they will be happier people.
Oh yeah.
And so a lot of companies are starting to kind of key into this. And they're starting to key into this in good ways of saying, how can we do this? So that's only a small fraction of what's going on here. But that is an example, right? I'm not going to go through all of the different reasons and why you would hire somebody from who's a gaming developer, why you'd hire them and bring them into your company. Say you're bringing them into Coke or Nestle or something like that. It's why exactly are these people reacting this way to this? Or there's tons of examples, but that's just one. So basically what this means is there's a lot of developers who are suddenly getting very good offers to move into other sectors. This is putting pressure on gaming in general, but this pressure is also good because it's forcing a lot of these companies to start to look outside the normal box of what they hire for as well, and looking at trying to bring more people in. And with the introduction of a lot of these new tools and stuff like that, it's even easier to become a developer than ever before. So really, this is something it's a big change as far as the general vibe of being a game developer and getting into these companies and working on these games. It's really changing a lot of things. So this is really interesting. If you're interested in getting into gaming, now is a better time than any to look into more of these options of trying to get into this kind of stuff. And if you're a developer who's been working for years and you're not respected and you're not being paid what you should, it's a great time to look into other companies and move over to those. So I think this is nothing but good. It's an interesting article about how the changing face of technology. One of the things that they mentioned especially was that a lot of these companies, there's a lot of companies that are why are we hiring locally anyways? The pool is small, it's hard to find the right people. Most of the time they're not even good at what they do. Let's go somewhere else to hire. So there's companies that are now hiring people on the other side of the globe to do stuff, and to, especially something that's this fine of an industry. They're finding these people and saying, hey, you don't even have to move. You just start working on the stuff that we give you, from home, and you're going to get twice the paycheck for that. That is a very good offer from a lot of people. This whole transiting to work thing has been ridiculous for ages anyways. I don't understand why we do it still. It's let me drive. In some cases, I'll use an example from Blizzard. There were 4 devs that were in a 2-room apartment because that's how much they were getting paid by Blizzard. And they would have to get on the bus and ride the bus for 2 hours to get to the offices to work. That's terrible. Yeah, that is absolutely terrible.
It's unnecessary.
You're burning 4 hours a day sitting on a bus. Wow. And you're often going in really early in the morning and very late at night, which isn't the safest times to be getting on a bus. So yeah, that's kind of brutal. Yeah, and now these people are getting offers to do better things in more places, and that's good because that'll force a lot of these gaming companies to start to pay more. because we know that a lot of them make, I mean, look at Blizzard. Blizzard makes, they make almost $5 billion a year. Sorry, no, I undercut that significantly. They make almost $10 billion a year. At some point, you got to say, hey, buddies, what's one of your lowest sources of pay? And it's like any employee that's under like, a C level, right? So it's like, yeah, all of those people. How much are you paying them? Well, we're paying them pennies. It's really the experience that they're here for. I'm using air quotes if you can't see. And it's like, oh my, that's disgusting. That's terrible. Yeah, maybe you should pay them more. Now, that doesn't always work. A famous politician recently went a little crazy and whispered, pay them more. Pay them more. And he's like partially right, but in the particular industry that he was talking about, not always possible. So, but just generally paying your employees more is actually a good thing. Like, it really is. I don't know why it's so hard for people to understand this, but yeah, you when you're getting paid peanuts and you barely feel that your time is being respected, you're not going to work nearly as hard as when somebody actually comes to you and actually says, hey, we believe you're worth like twice as much as you're currently getting paid, and we want to bring you into a team that loves and respects you. It's like that in and of itself. Remember that talk we just had about community? That is what makes things better.
Yeah. People used to go to Blizzard. That was sort of the dream job for a lot of game developers, to go there and work for them and get paid a decent salary to work on some of the greatest games ever made, particularly World of Warcraft, which generally speaking is still one of the greatest games ever made, even though it's certainly devolved since its glory
not right
days.
now, but it was.
Yeah. And to go from that prestigious status to where they are right now, where the people that are working there are being paid pennies, as you said, that's obviously going to decrease output, because people get there thinking that it's going to be one of the greatest things that they're going to do in their entire life, if not the greatest, and then they're treated like crap. And so naturally they think, okay, well, I'm stuck in this dead-end job. I'm not really confident that this experience is really going to get me anywhere, but at least they're paying me. Well, what's that going to do? It's going to depress them and not make them want to work as hard, especially with the way that the monetization schemes and the way that they're trying to construct their games, especially with something like Diablo Immortal, which is coming out of mobile, is going to hamper their creativity, right? So yeah, it's definitely, with an increasingly digitized world and people going online, and especially with COVID this last year and everybody working from home, it's definitely a better thing to do. And I totally commend companies that are going out of their way to seek out the best talent and not really do it based off of whether or not they can commute to and from the office. I will say that there's one thing that has me a little bit worried. As we've seen in the last few years, crunch culture is something that takes place at a lot of, specifically the AAA game developers, things like Rockstar and Naughty Dog and stuff like that. And some executives in the gaming industry have said that it's unsustainable, and I think they're right. I just fear that what's going to happen is people will just, who are working in the games industry with these types of games, are just going to get fed up. And then these other tech companies are going to pick up these game developers, put them into their jobs, and the games industry, particularly those AAA releases, will suffer as a whole. That's just one thing that I'm worried about. But I wonder if it means healthier employees and a healthier gaming market long term. Maybe it's better that this sort of thing should happen in the short term. You know what I mean, Seb?
Yeah. No, I mean, we hope that I think this is one of the many things that is going to increase the appreciation for these workers. But stuff like this has to happen first, right?
Yeah, and it's encouraging. See, like I said, we were going to have better news on this episode, and that's a good example. Now, let's move on to, I think, probably the second last or maybe the last story of this episode. Also good news. Side, you like South Park, right?
Oh, yeah. No, I think South Park's one of the greatest shows there is.
Yeah. So many seasons, and unlike The Simpsons, even though, The Simpsons is my all-time favorite TV show, I will say post-season 16, it's kind of really gone down the hill. But South Park, it has a relatively consistent level of quality. Where that's different, though, is in terms of the games. There have been 9 South Park games, and in my opinion, only 2 of them are really good. From what I understand, the mobile games are okay, but we have our own problems with mobile. But obviously, the 2 that I'm talking about are The Stick of Truth and The Fractured Butthole. Those games were great. They were surprisingly deep, and the writing in those games was as great as some of the best episodes in the TV show, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Now, given how great those two games were, I'm delighted to tell all of you that it's looking like we're going to get another one.
We're not just getting a new video game, which
yeah.
We are getting a couple of movies, a
Yeah.
couple of new series. Because if you've been paying attention, which you may or may not have, South Park hasn't had new seasons for a while. They've just been putting out that special episode that's about like an hour and a half longish, but it's like they've just done 2 of those in the last 2 years. We're waiting for stuff, but yeah, they netted $900 million for new South Park content, which includes movies, series, and video games, a 3D video game.
Yeah.
So
and best of all, we're going to be getting it apparently for the next 6 years.
Yeah.
And that makes me very happy because Matt and Trey, the creators of South Park, Trey Parker and Matt Stone, they've had the past year and a half or so to not really do too much in regards to South Park. So they've been probably saving up on a whole bunch of really good ideas. Mm-hmm. And I hope they'll be able to put that into the TV show, into apparently the standalone movies that they're also doing for the Paramount Plus streaming service, and the game. But here's the thing. You said that it's going to be a 3D game. I don't know what to make of this. See, I hope Trey and Matt have a good idea for this 3D South Park game, because the last 2 times they did 3D South Park games, they were garbaggio.
Yeah. Well, I think in the past they never really had a hand in making those games.
True.
The only game that they actually had a significant hand in was the Stick of Truth, and then the Fractured But Whole.
Whole, yes, with
whole,
a W.
Yes, without a W, because it's not a butt, thing. But it's fractured, but they are whole now.
Yes.
So and again, I mean, I think they're certainly crass. They're certainly they're not right on everything, but they're right on enough, and they have enough cojones to go after anybody.
Oh yeah.
And I respect that, because I think when you are a jester, your job is to attack everybody in humor, not in actual violence, but in humor, to make people laugh at themselves. Because the minute that you can't laugh at yourself, and you think you're too good or too important to be mocked and ridiculed, the minute that happens, you are definitely, if you are a person in power, you are definitely a tyrant. Yeah. Like, you may not be full tyrant yet, but you've definitely stepped into the boundaries of, I'm a tyrant. I am here to save humanity and make sure everybody does exactly as I say, because I am perfect. That's what you're saying when you don't allow anybody to mock you. If you make mistakes, which we all do, you deserve to be mocked. Now, there's going overboard, obviously, but there's also the responsible mocking of hey man, you really messed up. I'm going to make fun of you now. That's actually a good thing. It really is. It's a good thing to have some mockery, so that it puts you down a couple of pegs and you go, okay, all right, I shouldn't be a piece of shit. So, yeah.
It gets people to self-reflect. And
self-reflection is good.
Yeah. And yeah, like as you said, they do it to everybody on either side of the political spectrum. They won't hold back against anyone. They've even gone so far as to insult people who were Islamic terrorists to such an extent that they actually had their lives threatened by some radical organizations, religious organizations.
I think they will be executed immediately if they step into Iran or North Korea. So, yeah.
They kind of did North Korea, though, in Team America World Police.
Yep.
But, yeah.
Oh, yeah, and they're still wanted there for, if you bring them their heads, you'll get lavish praise by the glorious leader over there.
Yeah.
Who, I shouldn't mention that. But then again, there are multiple countries where that stuff, you're not allowed to make fun of that stuff. And it's always it's a very telling when it's oh, you know who else hates these guys because they made fun of them? A bunch of people who kill civilians and who call themselves, rulers for life, and who routinely have some of the worst human rights atrocities well documented. When you find yourself in a room and those are your compatriots, you have a serious problem.
Yes. People in power who kill members of their own family are not good people. In case it needs to be said. Shout out to Yeonmi Park, who's making the rounds as an escapee from the North Korean regime.
She's amazing. Absolutely amazing person.
She should be on the front cover of magazines everywhere and be a role model for young girls for the next 50 years. She's absolutely amazing.
There's a lot of people who are standing up right now in Cuba who also deserve many statues and pedestals that made after them, and most of them aren't going to live to see next year. That's really sad. I've mentioned before on our main channel, Moon has family in Hong Kong, and right now, because we're so very outspoken about this, we can never go back there. We can never go there. Yeah. We are not if we go there, we will be disappeared and sent to a big camp somewhere because we have spoken out against the government. So yeah, these are very serious issues. I worked with a game designer, game dev on a project that I can't talk about. I can't talk about the dev, and I can't talk about the project because it was made in a country where making that type of video game was illegal, and the punishment for it is death. Is beheading. Yeah. And so, yes, these are very serious issues that affect game developers just as much as they affect the people that are trapped in these situations. And like I said, when you're on their side, the side of the tyrants, going, "Don't you dare make fun of me, South Park. How dare you? You monsters, you." Yeah, you're in the same boat as those people. So just so you know.
Yep, it's true. Guys, don't ever take your freedom for granted. Listen to people who have escaped from these regimes to find out just how great we have it here. Thank God for people like Trey Stone and Matt Parker. They're absolute American treasures, creative geniuses, and I hope that they continue to mock people for the next 20 years at least.
Yeah. Always respect a jester. Always respect a jester.
Exactly.
You don't have to like them. You don't have to laugh at them. You don't have to find their stuff funny, but you should respect them because they're doing what most other people don't.
Well, most other people can't.
Yeah. Certainly. And that, yes, certainly.
All right. Well, I think just with those three topics, we've generated a lot of great discussion and a lot of stuff for people to talk about. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning into this episode of the Maximum News Show. Listen, we are going to be experimenting next week with this thing where we try to get across more news stories in a shorter span of time because, we do cover a lot when it comes to the topics that we do discuss, but the topics themselves are few in number, and we'd like to try and get more. So we would really appreciate you guys' help if you could recommend some stuff that you'd like us to cover. Put your ideas down in the comment section below, maybe with links. That would help us out too.
And let us know if you would be interested in hanging out with us in a private, I say private, but it would be like a privately streamed show too. This is something else that I've been kind of throwing around. If you guys are interested in that, kind of like a special after time hours thing where we hang out either in a Discord or something for members, that would also be something that's kind of cool. So let us know what your thoughts are on that, positive and negative. We'd like to get some feedback before we commit to anything in particular. So
yeah, heck yeah, I'd love to do stuff like that. Make sure you guys hit the like button. That helps out not only this show but the platform that enables us to do the show, the Disability Channel. I want to thank Saib as always for doing these shows with me and for all the wonderful insight that he provides. Saib, before we conclude, do you want to just tell people where they can find you online?
Find us at the Triple S League. We're really we're going to be getting into Baldur's Gate and New World quite a bit. Also, Humankind, the video game. It's like a 4X type thing, and I'm looking forward to it. Civ Think Civ.
So what's it called? Humankind?
Yeah, Humankind. Yeah. Instead of playing as Benjamin Franklin or Napoleon for the 15,000th time, you play as you, which is so cool. Is legitimately the thing that sold me on this game almost immediately. Is like, wait, I get to make my own character, and that character gets to take over the world? Oh my, really? Because I've taken over the world as Cleopatra. Like, I can't even count the number of times. Yeah. But I want to play as me, and that's what this game is offering over above its competition, which is Civilization. So really excited to give that a go.
The only thing that Saib loves more than conquering the world as Cleopatra is nuking the world as Gandhi. And you guys can find me on all the relevant social media websites, just at Max Darrett. I'm on Twitter, I'm on YouTube, I do a whole bunch of game analysis. Recently put out a video on Final Fantasy IX, which